Hello, everybody, and thanks so much for joining Molly and I for another segment of Tell Us Your Story. And today we are really thrilled to be welcoming our guest, Jake Ballentine. Welcome, Jake.
Hey, how are you? I'm so glad to be here.
Uh,
Yeah, welcome, Jake. We're so happy to have you here.
Oh, it's an honor. I'm so glad that we got to do this.
And for those of you who haven't had the good fortune of hearing about Jake or interacting with him yet, he is an amazing motivational speaker, an author, as well as a success coach. And I'm reading from my notes here, Jake, founder of the Speakers, Authors, and Coaches Network, which is, we're going to delve into that a little bit later. So, we have something in common, all three of us, and that is our connection to Jack Canfield. So, what I would like to do is just create a connection first, because I know, well, both Molly and I have done is train the trainer programs for certified trainers, and you have done the program as well as contributing towards one of his books. Do you want to kind of unpack that a little bit?
Sure. I was fortunate enough to in that train the trainer program with Jack Canfield, which is just a great program, and
Yeah.
Jack is absolutely brilliant. In sharing my story with him, he felt moved by that story and felt like he wanted to include it in this new book that he was putting out about stories of people who were actually living the success principles. That's what the book's called, is living the success principles. And it was such an honor to be a part of it. Let's see, they released it once, and then I believe they're doing a like an official re-release and launch sometime in the next year. So that's really cool and really exciting. But that was such an honor. And then I've been so fortunate that Jack has become someone that I consider a friend now.
Right.
In a couple different experiences, getting to work with him, done a couple interviews with him, and that's been an absolute blast. And that man is brilliant. And I
Yeah.
the thing that's interesting is I remember spending some time with him at his home this past year, last June, so June 2019. And I remember thinking, this guy is so much more brilliant than he lets on. Like he is, I think, is so much more than what I thought he was before. And it was just such a cool experience to get to know him.
Okay, that's so amazing. Actually, that's how I first discovered you. I saw that interview, one of the interviews you did with Jake or with Jack, and Jake. That kind of goes
Yes,
together, doesn't it?
yeah, it very almost the same.
So, just the one thing that I want to mention, and I carried this saying with me afterwards. It's like Jack's brilliance unfolds as you're talking to him, right? And Molly and I have experienced that in our interviews with him. But one of the things that he said that I really loved, and I carried it with me, was confidence, developing self confidence is the result of surviving a risk.
Yes.
Mhm.
Isn't that a great saying?
So great.
That I love that saying, and that I've taken that clip and put it in a lot of different places. And you're right. I mean, this is why I love podcasts. I love being on podcasts because I come up with better things in the moment in conversation than I do when I plan out something. And so do most people. So such good stuff comes out. But it's so true that everything that every bit of confidence comes from surviving a risk. You go back to the time of look at a little child. Now, my son's 3.5, so it's not that long ago that he learned how to walk. He's a little less than years when he learned how to walk. And at that time, every step was literally him surviving a risk. It was okay. I took a step, I didn't fall. I was doing the couch surfing thing, and then I took a step away from the couch, and I was okay for that. And then I fell, but I fell, and I wasn't hurt. I wasn't harmed. And in the converse, it's so interesting how this is an example that's used in psychology. I learned this in college, this exact example. Then seeing it unfold in reality was amazing. There was a time where my son fell off of the couch. He fell off the couch and it hurt him, and he was, devastated by it, crying, all that kind of stuff. And then he became afraid of the couch, not afraid of falling, but afraid of the couch. It's the same thing. So much of our fear is not about the actual event. It's about our attachment to the event. What is the attachment that we made? So we make an attachment to say, oh, that couch equals pain. Or did we make an attachment to say falling equals pain? Or did we make an attachment that, hey, you know what? I'm just learning this thing and I fell, but maybe I could learn something from it so I don't fall next time, which of course is eventually what ends up happening. But everything about fear and faith, maybe not everything, but so much of it comes down to this idea of what have I experienced and what did I take from that? It's the meaning of it. So I would take that even a step further. Self confidence is a result of the meaning that we attach to surviving a risk.
Mhm.
Because sometimes
Mhm.
people would survive a risk and just think of it, the story that we tell ourselves is everything. Because you could survive a risk just like my son falling off that couch. What did he do? He went, I survived that risk, but it was terrible. I almost died. I don't know what his little 1-year-old brain thought, but in his mind, it was terrible and he never wanted to go there again. But it wasn't until he ended up attaching a new meaning to that story of, hey, you know what? It's okay. I actually did survive the risk and I learned something from it. And now I can move forward and be better and be stronger. Because people can take the same story. Yesterday, I was just writing some content for a new seminar that I'm planning. So much of it is about fear and faith, fear and faith, fear and faith.
Mhm.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a story. So this way people can get out of their story because we put so much drama and attachment to our own story. So I'm going to write up several different stories that
Mm.
people could take either way. And I'm going to take different groups of people, just like a debate class in high school or college. And this half is going to have to play the part of, I don't like using the word victim because it triggers a lot of things. And so I like to use the word a reactor. They're going to play
Mhm.
the part of a reactor and they're going to
Mm.
play as much drama as they possibly can. This side over here is going to play the part of a conscious creator and they are going to create the most empowering story that they could come from it. So these two sides can see that you could take either side with any story. I'm going to do this with multiple stories. They can take any side they want and then from there, then we're going to do it with our own stories because
Wow.
people get stuck in the drama of this is my story and no, this is this way because of that. And our attachment to the story that we've created is the thing that holds us back from being free.
Wow.
So true. And that kind of brings in Jack's E plus R equals O, how we're taking responsibility for our story. What's our
Yeah.
response to our story? So
Yes.
absolutely. I was just thinking about when you were talking about taking a risk, and recently I've seen on your um, Facebook group how you recently took a risk. You were afraid to start YouTube, which Tina and I both have been working on, and your ego was getting in the way, and you were stopping yourself thinking, do I really want just a few likes when I'm used to thousands of likes? Can you tell us a little bit about how you got out of your own way and what that process was like and what you'd recommend for people trying to do the same?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's look at this and say, well, it's not that I hadn't started YouTube. I've used YouTube for years, but I've used YouTube as a place to store content as opposed to actually going all in with it and
Mm.
developing and building a following on there. And I was just thinking about, well, why have I not actually done it? What is the deeper thing? This wasn't a conscious level. It's interesting when you open up about things like that, there's always people who will respond with this idea of like, wait, why would you think that? Why would you whatever? Like, and that's not the case. What it really is looking at things at a deeper level and saying, I like to go, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Or why am I not doing the things that I'm doing? And then take that answer and then go another level deeper. And then
Mm.
take that answer and then ask why again. And then ask why again. And then ask why again. And what I realize is that I've been saying this story of anytime someone went to my YouTube, like, oh, I don't really focus on that. It's just kind of a place where I store videos because that was a protection of my ego of
Mhm.
look at me over here. Well, on my Facebook group, I have 10,000 people over here that are really amazing people. I have this community that I've built, and what I realized is that was the thing that was holding me back from actually using this tool to grow. And I'm a big fan of taking a tool and learning it as deeply as you possibly can. That's exactly what I did with Facebook groups. It's an incredible tool. It's an incredible tool. And I decided I'm going to learn this process
Mm.
and I'm going to become an expert in it so that I can use it to my advantage. And that's the same thing I'm doing with YouTube. But so many people have a hard time going from success to, hey, I'm just starting out. And
Mhm.
that prevents us from learning. You think about it in a coaching situation. When you're coaching someone, anyone who's watching this who's a coach, it's so often that you hear people that want to protect their ego. They
Mhm.
want to protect their ego by making sure you know that maybe I'm struggling in this area, but I'm way up here over in this area. But that need to protect themselves, that need to say, look, I'm way up here, is the very thing that is going to keep us from progressing. And so, in order to progress, we must let go. In terms of how, I find that when we I find that when we acknowledge what something is, the how unfolds. That the
Yeah.
acknowledging it is 99%.
Yeah.
I think about it this way. Have you guys seen The Wizard of Oz? Have you seen The Wizard of Oz?
Mhm.
Long time
Okay,
ago.
so
Yeah,
The
a long
Wizard of
time
Oz.
ago.
All right, and by the way, I'm going to say the ending. And if you watching right now are afraid of spoilers, it's not my fault. The movie came out in the 40s. You can deal with it. But you go to the Wizard of Oz. They finally go to the great and grand wizard, and here he is in all these big screens, which was a huge deal because that idea of screens like that didn't really exist then. Flames coming up, and he's saying, "I am the great, powerful Oz," and here's his face, and they're terrified. They're terrified of the great and powerful Oz, until the little dog Toto goes and somehow gets behind this curtain, opens up the curtain, and you see this little man who is a little bit kind of little nutty professor like, with all these levers and the screen, and he's saying that, and he notices them, and then the great and powerful Oz says, "Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain." And the moment they realized what it actually was, the moment they realized that this is not this great and powerful wizard, this is a little man behind a curtain who's pulling levers and pretending to be something bigger than he is,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
their fear went away. And so the moment we tell the truth to ourselves and say,
Mhm.
this is what is actually going on,
Hmm.
that is the moment that 99% of the fear disappears, because that fear no longer has power. We must eliminate the power that that fear has. And we eliminate that power by telling the truth.
Absolutely.
Wow. That is really, really powerful. And I think also what's really powerful is what you're doing, Jake, with your speakers and authors program and how that has really pivoted for you this year. And I kind of know a little bit firsthand because I've attended a couple of your free seminars, which were real, they were really invaluable. Actually, anytime that any of our listeners have an opportunity to attend something that you're putting out, Jake, it's definitely worthwhile.
Thank you.
And so not only are you pivoting, and I'd like to get to that as well in terms of how you have pivoted, because speakers, right? We speak live or with people in face to face in real life. But of course, with COVID, that's turned everything upside down. And you know, you have pivoted so well with COVID that you even went through the experience yourself of contracting COVID. You actually went
Yeah,
through COVID yourself.
I did. That had nothing to do with the pivot of it.
I know, just interesting.
Yeah, that had nothing to do with that. But um, when it comes down to it, this is what everyone needs to hear. I feel like the theme of this has been, tell yourself the truth and you can be set free. There's a lot of people who are holding on to the way they think it should be.
Hmm.
There's a lot of people who are feeling like, and I don't care what your opinions are about how things are being handled here. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And the reason why I say it doesn't matter is because this is the way things are. And if
Mhm.
you want the outcome of growing your business, you need to accept the way things are and then work within those realms, work within those boundaries. Now, if you want to go out and dedicate yourself to being a political activist, go for it. But don't lie to yourself and say that you're doing it to help your business, because that's not what's going to happen. You're going to cause more controversy. You're going to get in your own way. You're going to have nothing but challenges trying to live in both worlds. And instead, what you really ought to do, if this is your goal, there's no should, you do whatever you want. But if your goal is to grow your business, accept the way things are and move forward. And so I had 10 events that I was putting on this year in 2020 that I canceled. 10 events around the country. And I even said at the beginning of 2020, I said, this is my year of my live events. Because I usually speak live. I don't know. I speak live in person over 50 times a year is my typical. Excuse me, my voice is gone right now. I'm currently at a virtual date with destiny program with Tony Robbins. And one of the things Tony Robbins does to get you out of that fear is get you to use your body and your physiology, including your voice. And I could just sit at home and say I'm here and who cares, I'm not going to do it. But it's about participating fully, and then you get the
Right.
results from it. So
Right.
that's why my voice, I think that Tony Robbins has a mission in life to make everyone sound like him. I think that's all it is. He just wants everyone to sound like him, so he gets us to yell and be ridiculous. But anyway, so what I decided to do, even though I had said this is my year for my own live events, I'm going to put on these live events, these small live events all around the country, and that's going to be what's going to fuel the sales and the programs that I do. And I'm so excited about it. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to go do these events here and here and here. I had polled my audience to see where people wanted me to go. And I'm like, great, here's a city where there's a lot of people. Here's a city where there's a lot of people. I was so excited about it. COVID hits. At first, I'm upset about it. At first, I'm angry about it. At first, I'm, nah, this isn't going to be a couple weeks. It's not going to be anything. I'm always Mr. Focus on the good. And most of the time, that really serves me. 99% of the time, that serves me.
Mhm.
Sometimes it makes me a little blindsided, but that's a very small percent, maybe 10%.
Mhm.
It serves me so well. So those of you who are positive and somebody has told you the BS lie that look what your positivity got you. It made you blindsided for this or blindsided for that. Do not let go of your positivity, because people who are negative are just afraid of life. They're afraid of life, and they want to protect themselves from disappointment. So do
Mhm.
not listen to them, and do not let this be a time where you are saying, this is evidence that I was wrong. The world needs you. The world needs your positivity. So don't let go of it. Anyway, now I'll get off my soapbox. But what I did there is said, okay, after a little while, I said, this needs to be, I had to let go of the way I wish it was. I need to let go of my vision for 2020, because none of this stuff was on my vision board for 2020. It's not what I had on there. But I said, great, I'm going to use the tools that I had. I've been building this online platform, and the building the online platform was to do live events. But I go, that's not there. So I'm going to
Mhm.
really focus on online events. I'm going to build out not just my own sales processes, but I'm going to build out my own sales team. I'm going to build out my own sales team so I can grow in a different way. I have 3 people that are doing full-time sales for me now, who are just an incredible team of people. And that only happened because I said, what can I do?
Mhm.
What can I do? Instead of focusing on what I can't do, well, what can I do? And in my mind, I'm going to look back on 2020 and say, this was the year that I needed, not necessarily the year that I wanted, but it was the year that I needed, because it helped me grow in ways that I never would have grown had this all not happened.
So
Okay.
powerful. So powerful.
Amazing.
One of the questions that I get asked all the time as a coach is, what if you don't know what you want to do? And one thing that inspires me from your story, Jake, is that you set out to, well, you started as a musician and decided you didn't like playing in the bars and being out late at night. And then you pivoted to studying psychology and we're going to go off to graduate school and stumbled upon, I think that's the right word, speaking, and fell in love with it.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit to people who are discouraged that they really don't know what they want to do, and maybe a few tips on how to find that.
Number one, let go of perfection and start taking action. So that's number one. And number two, let go of perfection and start taking action. Because what's happening is you're stuck in this idea of the normal world, the civilian world, we could call it that. That, we're entrepreneurs, we're different, we're not like everyone else. And the civilian world, the world outside of the entrepreneur, they have this idea of you go to school, you go and do this thing, you get this job, you work there for 20 years, for 30 years, for whatever. It feels like it's a big commitment. Entrepreneurship is not the same. Entrepreneurship is something where you need to be comfortable with uncertainty. You need to be comfortable with it being uncomfortable. Here's the first two rules of entrepreneurship. Number one, don't sweat the small stuff. That's rule number one. Rule number two, it's all small stuff. That's rule number two. Because if not, you're going to go crazy. And what you're doing right now is you're in your head and you're driving yourself crazy, because what is happening is you have thought yourself into a hole, and thinking is not going to get you out of a hole that you thought yourself into. The only thing that's going to get you out of it is action. So all I'm going to say is let go of the need for perfection. And I don't care which direction you move. Just start moving, and move with the mindset of the next step's going to be revealed to me in my place of action. But I don't need to know the path before I take action. Martin Luther King says, you don't need to see the whole staircase. All you need to do is take the next step. Jack Canfield has talked about how you can go coast to coast all the way across the country, and you can be driving. When you're driving at night, all you see is 100 yards in front of you the whole time. It's pitch black after that. You don't need what's more. You don't need what's after that. You just don't. And so let go of perfection. Let go of the need for certainty of knowing exactly how your life's going to turn out. Because, spoiler alert, even if you think you know how your life is going to turn out, it's not going to happen. And especially in business, things are going to change. And if you're rigid, you're going to be stuck and you're going to fail. I'll say that again. If you are rigid in business, you will get stuck and you will fail. Now, you might fail, or maybe you will fail. You will fail. So you have to be flexible. So for me, I mean, when you said, well, I decided I didn't like it, I mean, that's 4 years of work. That wasn't like I did it for a week. I mean, I was a full-time musician for 4 years. I dropped out of college. I was in Los Angeles. I was performing music. That's all I was doing. I was dedicated to that. And I got into it for the purpose of, and here's something really clear. Be clear on what you want, not on the process to get there. The process is going to change. Be clear on what you want. And I don't mean I want it. In this personal development world, we talk about, well, you need to have clear focus on what you want. And I think sometimes that holds people back. I look at things this way. If I'm going to go hike, there's a mountain that's over there through this window. If I'm going to go hike that mountain, well, you know what? I know where I'm going, but I don't have a clear vision of what it looked. Well, I do, because I've been on top of it. But before I'd been on top of it, I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what the leaves are on the tree. I don't know what kinds of trees there are. I don't know what the terrain is. I don't know that stuff until I get to the top, until I get closer. And so what I can say is, I want to go there. And it's a general direction. Then I'm going to drive there and I'm going to get there. And then the mountain becomes more clear, because now I see a path, but I still don't know what the top of it looks like. So now I'm going to start going up that path. I'm going to start going. And as I move, it becomes clearer.
Yeah.
So take action. If you're stuck, I don't care which action you go. I don't care which direction. Just move. Yeah. Just move and be open to things changing.
Absolutely. And just to kind of confirm that, I mean, we all have our own experiences. And like you said, we're all entrepreneurs here. And a couple of years ago, when I left financial services after 32 years working for the same company, building this agency, I knew I wanted to get out and get into coaching. I thought it was style coaching. I did that for about 6 months and I said, I love this whole domain of dating and, helping people, find work themselves into and navigate the
Yes.
craziness of the online dating world. And speaking of that, I know that you have, I'm going to delve into your secrets now, a relationship success, because
Well,
you've
that's not
been,
a secret.
there you go. For others, until you speak it, it's a secret. So any particular advice that you can give to people, as especially now during COVID, right? How to keep your relationship great and healthy and exciting and to build some longevity in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many people who are so far my senior on this. But my wife and I have been married for 11 years. And we got married very young. I mean, one of the first questions when I get, uh, 11 years, I didn't think you were old enough to be married that long. But no, we got married. I was 24 when we got married. And I can say that my marriage is something that I'm more proud of than anything else that I've done. Done a lot of great things, but nothing matters more than that. And I think that my advice on it is, gosh, I've said let go so many times. Let go of the need to protect yourself. Let go of the need to protect your ego. Let go of the need to protect the idea of being right, and let go of the need of things being fair. If you're keeping score in your relationship, it will end. My
Right.
grandfather was an incredible psychiatrist, um, who worked primarily with families, and I want to be clear because a lot of times psychiatrists today are typically just script writers, but um, he was just doing incredible therapy with families, and he do um, no, I mean these weren't big giant seminars, but he'd do open seminars for couples and things. And I remember watching him as a kid and just being blown away of him doing these seminars, um, talking to couples and families, and it was just beautiful. My grandfather was brilliant. He passed away about 12 years ago. It's one of I so wish that my wife got to meet my grandfather, um, but she never did. But anyway, one of the things he talked about with marriage advice was it's not 50-50, it's 100%, and everything that you get is a bonus.
Mm.
And if you can have that, you don't need to keep score, because that person is going to feel that and is going to give back. Don't keep score. It's 100%. Another thing that he shared that was so wonderful. I thought about this a lot because, I was in the dating world when he passed away. And he said, before you are married, your eyes are wide open, wide open. You want to see everything. But the moment you have made that commitment, you have blinders on, and all you see is their perfection. And that's it. Stop trying to make people better. Stop trying to coach your spouse. Stop trying to, um, and I know you guys, you work with people in that relationship, in the dating world. Great. Now's the time to keep your eyes wide open. But if you think about a past relationship that maybe didn't work out, I'm not putting any blame on anyone, but ask yourself, were my blinders on, or did I keep those eyes wide open the whole time? Was I giving 100% no matter what, or was I keeping score? And that's not to feel any negativity about the past, but it's just about looking forward. And once you make that commitment, it's 100%. And I used to say 100%, 100%. Look, if I'm giving that advice to a couple together, then it's to both of them individually. But all you can control is yourself. And I know that for me, and my wife says the same thing, when I start letting go of giving 100%, I see, we start having conflict, and there is, um, maybe she's not giving 100% anymore. And she says the same thing, that when she isn't giving 100%, that she sees it kind of go down with me. And my last thought on this for people who are in the dating world right now, you want to find someone that you can give 100% to without the need to protect yourself. If you feel like you need to keep score, don't walk away, run away. If you feel like you need to keep score, get out. That's not the right person. You want to be with someone that you can give 100% to without the need to protect yourself.
That's really amazing advice. And even if people are out that I'm working with are dating right now, what I love about your advice is that it allows you also to look back in retrospect and see how you showed up in other relationships and see, because inevitably we end up repeating the same patterns, right? So unless you really
Yes.
learn from the past and you don't want to repeat the same patterns, and this is a really good perspective to
Yeah.
look at it with. So we have to wind up right now. How are you feeling, Molly? Is there any last comments or question that you wanted to get in before we sign
We're
off?
just so grateful that you came on today. Your advice is amazing. Of course, your attitude is so big and live, and we just appreciate you joining us and sharing all your wealth of knowledge. So thank you.
Thank you. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much to you guys, to my co-host, to you, Jake, for coming on with us today. We certainly hope to have you on again some other time if possible.
Love to.
That would be awesome. And thanks to everybody who's going to be listening in. See you next time.
See you.